Kate, darling, Alexander Fox purred, his eyes dark with intent as he slid an envelope across the restaurant table. Open it. My wife's trembling fingers revealed a hotel key card. Suite 1812. Your contract renewal, Fox whispered, his manicured hand capturing her wrist. Consider this the final interview. Hidden in my wife's necklace, a microphone transmitted his every word to my earpiece at the bar. I watched through the mirror as Wall Street's golden boy, the billionaire whose face graced magazine covers, showed his true colors. So my employment depends on sleeping with you tonight? Kate asked, voice steady despite her racing pulse. Fox laughed, the entitled chuckle of a predator who'd never heard no. Don't be naive. How do you think women really succeed in my world? That night at the Grand Imperial Hotel was just the beginning of Alexander Fox's downfall. But to understand how we engineered the destruction of one of Wall Street's most powerful predators, I need to take you back to where it all started. 6 months earlier, our life had been blissfully ordinary. I ran a moderately successful law practice focusing on corporate compliance, while Kate had just completed her MBA with a focus on financial analysis. After years of grinding through night school while working full-time, she was finally ready to make her mark in the financial world. Dan! Kate burst into our Connecticut home one Thursday evening, still in her interview suit, eyes wild with excitement. You're not going to believe who just called me. I looked up from case briefs spread across our dining table. Based on that face, either you've won the lottery or… Fox Capital Partners, the Fox Capital. Alexander Fox himself sat in on my final interview. My stomach tightened instinctively, though I couldn't have explained why at the time. Everyone knew Fox Capital, the fastest growing investment firm on Wall Street, known for astronomical returns and aggressive strategies. Its founder, Alexander Fox, had a reputation for personally mentoring promising analysts and turning them into financial superstars. They offered me senior analyst on their Helios project, Kate continued, pacing our kitchen with manic energy. Starting salary is double what we expected, plus performance bonuses, stock options. Dan, this is everything we've worked for. I forced enthusiasm into my voice despite the unexplainable unease crawling up my spine. That's incredible, babe. I'm so proud of you. Kate launched herself into my arms and I twirled her around our kitchen, her laughter bright and hopeful. Fox said I have exceptional intuitive capacity for market dynamics. His words. He's right about that, I said, meaning it. My wife was brilliant, always had been. During our 10 years together, I'd watched her work herself to exhaustion, earning her degrees while climbing the corporate ladder at a regional bank. No one deserved this opportunity more. There's a champagne bottle in the fridge from New Year's, I said. I think this qualifies as a celebration. As we toasted her success that night, I couldn't have imagined we were actually celebrating the beginning of our descent into a world of corporate predation, psychological warfare, and financial crime that would transform us both forever. Kate's first month at Fox Capital was intoxicating. She'd come home vibrating with energy, talking about market strategies and billion-dollar deals. The Helios project, Fox's most prestigious investment portfolio, was apparently revolutionary, and Kate had been given surprisingly broad access for a new hire. Fox says I bring a fresh perspective, she told me, her cheeks flushed with pride and expensive champagne from yet another team celebration. Today, he asked me to sit in on a call with Japanese investors, people managing billions in assets. The gifts started arriving during week 3. First, a Mont Blanc pen in a velvet box with a handwritten note. For signing your first billion-dollar deal. A. Next came a silk Hermes scarf that reminded him of her eyes. Then a bottle of 25-year-old Macallan, because life's too short for mediocre celebrations. It's normal on Wall Street, Kate assured me when I expressed concern. Everyone gets gifts when they perform well, but I noticed she'd started leaving them in her desk drawer at work. By month 2, the late nights began. Kate would text that she had to analyze just one more prospectus, attend just one more emergency meeting. She'd crawl into bed at 1 a.m., her phone still buzzing with messages from A. Fox runs a 24/7 shop, she explained, dark circles forming beneath her eyes. That's the price of working with the best. I might have believed her if not for the subtle changes in her demeanor. My confident, laughing wife was being replaced by someone perpetually exhausted, constantly checking her phone, flinching at unexpected sounds. She lost weight, developed an eye twitch, started having nightmares. The breaking point came one Sunday when I found her huddled in our home office at 4 a.m., frantically revising a presentation, tears streaming down her face. "Kate, what's happening?" I knelt beside her chair, alarmed by the desperation in her eyes. "I can't get these projections right," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Fox said my last analysis was disappointingly elementary and made me present it again in front of the entire team. She swallowed hard. He said maybe they'd made a mistake hiring me." "That's bullshit," I said, anger flaring. "You're working 90-hour weeks. Your analysis is excellent. If he can't see that, you don't understand." Her outburst was so unlike her that we both froze. Fox accepts nothing less than perfection. One mistake and you're done. And he's trusted me with this opportunity when hundreds of other analysts would kill for it. That moment, watching my brilliant, capable wife reduced to tears by calculated psychological manipulation, was when I first truly hated Alexander Fox. I just didn't yet understand what we were really dealing with. "Show me what you're working on," I said, pulling up a chair. As we reviewed her presentation, Kate gradually calmed down, her analytical mind reasserting itself. Around 6 a.m., she finally closed her laptop. "There's something else," she said quietly, not meeting my eyes. "Fox has been attentive, stopping by my office, standing too close, finding reasons to touch my shoulder or arm." My jaw tightened. "Has he said anything inappropriate?" "Not explicitly. It's all plausibly deniable. Yesterday, he mentioned weekend drinks at his penthouse to discuss my development. When I said I had plans with you, he asked how long we'd been married and if I found long-term monogamy intellectually constraining." "Kate, I know what you're going to say," she interrupted, "but I can't just quit. This job is everything I've worked for, and it's not like I can just walk into another top firm if I leave Fox under a cloud." I took her hands in mine, feeling the slight tremor running through them. "What do you want to do?" The question hung between us as dawn light crept through our windows. When Kate finally answered, there was a new steeliness in her voice that I'd never heard before. "I want to destroy him." That morning, over coffee growing cold and untouched, Kate revealed something that shifted everything. She'd been documenting Fox's behavior from the beginning. "I knew what he was the moment he cornered me in the elevator my second week," she said, pulling out a secure tablet I'd never seen before. "Asked if my husband fully appreciated what he had at home. I've been recording everything since then." She showed me a folder labeled Insurance, meticulous notes of every uncomfortable interaction, screenshots of inappropriate late-night texts, voice memos recounting conversations immediately after they occurred. My lawyer's mind immediately recognized what she'd created, a contemporaneous record that would be invaluable in any legal proceeding. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, stunned by her foresight. "Because I needed to be sure," she said simply, "and because I knew you'd want me to quit immediately. But there's something bigger happening at Fox Capital. I'm not the first, Dan. There are others, women who either gave in to him or were pushed out when they refused, and no one has ever held him accountable." As Kate talked, a plan began forming between us. If Fox's behavior followed the pattern of other predators I'd prosecuted, he would escalate gradually, believing his target was weakening. We could use that against him, create a record so irrefutable that even his money and power couldn't make it disappear. The problem, I explained, is that harassment cases are notoriously difficult to prove, especially against powerful men with unlimited legal resources. Even with your documentation, it could come down to your word against his. Kate's expression hardened. "Then we need more. We need to show it's not just me, not just my word against his. And we need something so damning that his board can't possibly ignore it." We decided on a two-pronged approach. Kate would continue at Fox Capital, documenting everything while appearing to gradually warm to Fox's attention. A dangerous game of seeming receptive without crossing lines. Meanwhile, I would use my legal connections to quietly reach out to former Fox Capital employees, particularly women who had worked directly with Alexander Fox. What we didn't realize then was that we were pulling on a thread that would unravel far more than just a sexual harassment case. The rot at Fox Capital went deeper than we could have imagined. I can't talk about Alexander Fox. Sarah Jensen's voice was terse through my phone speaker. The former Fox Capital vice president had responded to my carefully worded LinkedIn message with immediate suspicion. I understand, I said, but my wife Kate Mitchell is currently in a situation at Fox Capital that I believe mirrors your experience. Silence stretched for several seconds. Then, Cafe Reggio, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Come alone. I'll be wearing a red scarf. Sarah was everything Kate had described as Fox's type. Brilliant, ambitious, conventionally attractive. But where Kate still burned with determination, Sarah's eyes held the flat affect of someone who had survived trauma. NDA? I asked after we'd settled into a corner table. She nodded, glancing around nervously. Triple layered with liquidated damages clauses that would bankrupt me. But they can't stop me from hypothetically discussing industry practices. Over the next hour, without explicitly naming Fox or his company, Sarah outlined a predatory system designed with surgical precision. A CEO might hypothetically create special projects necessitating late nights and travel, she began, voice barely audible. He might systematically isolate promising female employees through excessive praise, followed by public criticism that makes others avoid them. He might manufacture crises requiring urgent hotel room meetings. And if someone refused his advances? Sarah's laugh was brittle. Then hypothetically, that person might find herself assigned impossible tasks, excluded from crucial information, gradually pushed into failure. When she finally leaves, an ironclad NDA ensures her silence. There must be others, I said, mind racing with the implications. Hypothetically, 13 I know personally, over 8 years. Would any talk, even hypothetically? They're terrified, but... She hesitated, then slid a napkin across the table with 3 names written on it. Start with Megan Rothschild. Tell her I sent you, and tell your wife to be careful. These hypothetical predators escalate when they sense resistance. Megan led to Diane. Diane to Jennifer and Rebecca. Each woman told variations of the same story. Initially flattering attention from Fox, followed by increasing pressure, culminating in either compliance or career destruction. Each had signed NDAs. Each still carried the weight of their experience, and remarkably, each had kept some form of evidence, just in case. He gets sloppy when he thinks he's winning, Megan told me during our clandestine meeting in a Brooklyn coffee shop. The more confident he becomes that you'll eventually give in, the more explicit his demands. Meanwhile, Kate was gaining Fox's confidence. He'd promoted her to senior analyst on the Helios project, given her a corner office with harbor views, introduced her to key clients as the future of Fox Capital. He thinks he's grooming me, Kate said grimly during one of our strategy sessions. Today, he accidentally sent me an email meant for his realtor. He's looking at properties in the Hamptons and wanted my feminine perspective on which would better impress guests. The hook, I noted, recognizing the tactic from other cases I'd worked on. Kate nodded. Next will come the invitation for a weekend property tour. Classic isolation tactic. She was right. The invitation came 3 days later, casually mentioned during a project review. I've narrowed it down to 2 properties, Fox told her. I value your insight, Kate. We could drive out Saturday, make a day of it. The restaurant at Topping Rose House is excellent. Kate demurred with practiced skill, interested but unavailable that particular weekend. Fox took the bait. Perhaps the following weekend, then? His hand brushed her lower back. I can send my driver for you. This calculated dance continued for weeks, Kate appearing increasingly receptive to Fox's attention while gathering evidence. Me building a network of his former victims and piecing together the extent of his predation. But as we assembled our case against Fox, the harasser, we stumbled upon something unexpected. Fox, the financial fraudster. The breakthrough came from Jennifer Winters, a former accounting specialist who had left Fox Capital 4 years earlier. The harassment was bad, she told me over secure video chat, her face partially shadowed. But what I saw in the Artemis Fund books was worse. Fox was manipulating returns, hiding losses, falsifying client statements. Can you prove it? I asked, pulse quickening. Not anymore. But your wife might be able to if she has access to the Helios project. It's the same structure as Artemis was, a special vehicle for Fox's most valued clients. That night, Kate combed through the Helios files with new purpose. By morning, she had identified discrepancies that would make any financial regulator salivate. Artificial inflation of returns, misrepresentation of assets, phantom trades that existed only on paper. He's running a sophisticated Ponzi scheme, she explained, showing me spreadsheets filled with damning numbers. Using new investor money to fabricate returns for existing clients, skimming millions for himself, hiding the evidence in a labyrinth of shell companies. She highlighted a series of transactions to offshore accounts in the Caymans and Malta. Look at these transfer patterns. He's extracted over $40 million for himself in the past year alone. The entire Helios project is a house of cards. This changes everything, I said, mind racing with possibilities. Financial fraud at this level carries serious consequences, much harder to sweep under the rug than harassment claims. Kate's eyes gleamed with fierce satisfaction. And guess who just gave me expanded access to the internal audit files? Fox himself, right after suggesting we could continue our conversation during his upcoming Tokyo business trip. Our strategy evolved. The harassment documentation would continue, but now we had a second, potentially more powerful angle of attack. If Fox's predatory behavior was difficult to prove conclusively, his financial crimes were etched in black and white across his company's own records. The next 3 weeks were the most intense of our lives. Kate played her dangerous role with masterful precision, seeming to gradually succumb to Fox's charm while documenting his escalating behavior and siphoning damning financial records to our secure server. Fox's confidence grew with each small victory, Kate accepting his arm as they walked to client meetings, laughing at his increasingly suggestive jokes, allowing brief touches without recoiling. His tactics became bolder, more explicit. "I need you in Tokyo next week," he announced after calling her to his office late one evening when most staff had left. "The Hikari Group is considering a major investment, and your presence would be persuasive." "Persuasive?" Kate asked innocently, the recording device in her bracelet capturing every word. Fox moved around his desk until he stood directly in front of her, invading her personal space. "Japanese businessmen appreciate beauty alongside brilliance. We'll be staying at the Aman Tokyo. I've taken the liberty of booking adjoining suites." Kate's heart hammered as she maintained her composure. "That sounds convenient." "Very." Fox's finger traced her jawline. "Your quarterly review is coming up, Kate. I'd like to give you an exceptional evaluation. I think we both know how that could happen." The recording of that conversation became the linchpin of our harassment case, explicit enough to be undeniable, with clear implication of professional consequences tied to sexual compliance. But the Tokyo trip provided an even more valuable opportunity. With Fox out of the office, Kate would have unprecedented access to the financial systems. We just needed to ensure she didn't actually have to board that plane with him. The endgame began with an invitation to dinner, just 2 nights before the scheduled Tokyo trip. "Just the 2 of us," Fox said, his hand lingering on Kate's waist as he walked her to her office. "To celebrate your first 6 months with the company. You've impressed a lot of people, Kate, myself especially." Kate accepted with calculated enthusiasm, using his first name for the first time, a significant boundary shift that brought a predatory smile to his face. "The Mercer Hotel, 8 o'clock Friday. We'll have privacy there." The trap was set, not his for her, but ours for him. Friday night arrived with rain slashing against Manhattan's glass towers. Kate wore a navy dress conservative enough for business, but flattering enough to maintain the illusion. The pendant necklace housing our recording device completed the outfit, a direct link to my phone as I sat in the hotel bar, angled away from their table but positioned to monitor the situation. Fox arrived 20 minutes late, a power move designed to create anxiety. He ordered for both of them without consultation and immediately steered the conversation toward the upcoming Tokyo trip. "I've arranged a private tea ceremony," he said, reaching across to touch Kate's hand. "Just you and me. Very exclusive. Very intimate." "That sounds wonderful," Kate replied, allowing her hand to remain under his, a beat longer than necessary. Fox leaned closer. "I've been patient, Kate. More patient than usual. I think we both know where this is heading. Do we? She asked, eyes wide with practiced innocence. Don't play coy. It doesn't suit you. His voice lowered to a predatory purr. Your contract review is next month. Tokyo could be a very beneficial trip for your career trajectory. Kate took a deliberate sip of wine. Are you saying my contract renewal depends on something specific happening in Tokyo? Fox's smile was all teeth. I'm saying your entire future at Fox Capital, and potentially on Wall Street, depends on how well we collaborate. This is a relationship business, Kate. So to be clear, she pressed, leading him exactly where we needed him to go. You're conditioning my continued employment on sleeping with you in Tokyo? I prefer to think of it as exploring our chemistry without office distractions. But yes, if you want to be crude about it, your professional future and your contract renewal depend on how satisfying I find our personal relationship. And there it was, the explicit quid pro quo we needed, captured perfectly on our recording. What happened next wasn't part of our original plan, but sometimes improvisation yields the most satisfying results. Excuse me for a moment, Kate said, standing gracefully. Powder room. As soon as she was out of sight, I approached Fox's table. The recognition that flashed across his face when I introduced myself as Kate's husband was worth every risk we'd taken. What the hell is this? He hissed, eyes darting around the upscale restaurant. I placed my phone on the table, the recording app still running. This, Mr. Fox, is the sound of your career ending. His recovery was impressive, shock morphing almost instantly to calculated menace. Whatever you think you have, we have everything, I interrupted quietly. Every disgusting proposition, every threat to my wife's career, every instance of sexual harassment meticulously documented, and that's just the start. Fox's expression hardened. You have no idea who you're dealing with. One phone call and you'll never work in this city again. Your wife's career on Wall Street will be over before she clears out her desk. I leaned forward, dropping my voice. Actually, we know exactly who we're dealing with. A sexual predator who's created an entire corporate infrastructure to facilitate harassment, and a financial fraudster who's been running a modified Ponzi scheme through the Helios project. The color drained from his face at the mention of Helios. That's right, I continued, savoring his shock. We know about the fabricated returns, the misappropriated funds, the offshore accounts, the cooked books. How do you think the SEC will react when they receive the documentation we've compiled? Or your investors? Or your board? Fox's voice turned to ice. What do you want? Money? A settlement? We want justice, I said simply. For Kate, for Megan Rothschild, for Sarah Jensen, for Diane Alpert, for Jennifer Winters, for every woman you've harassed, threatened, or destroyed. At the mention of those names, the women he thought safely silenced by NDAs and fear, Fox's composure finally cracked. Those bitches signed. Careful, I warned. You're still being recorded, and NDAs don't cover criminal activity, as I'm sure your lawyers have explained. Kate returned to the table, her expression serene as she sat beside me, presenting a united front that clearly unnerved Fox. You've made a catastrophic mistake, Fox snarled, abandoning all pretense. By this time tomorrow, you'll both be drowning in lawsuits. You'll never work again. Anywhere. Kate smiled, a genuine smile that seemed to infuriate Fox further. Actually, Alexander, we have one more card to play. Your company's annual strategic retreat begins Monday at the Arizona Biltmore, doesn't it? With the entire board in attendance? Fox's eyes narrowed suspiciously. I believe I'm still scheduled to present the Helios performance review, Kate continued pleasantly, but I'll be presenting slightly different numbers than you're expecting. You're bluffing, Fox said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Monday, 10 a.m., I said, standing and offering Kate my hand. That gives you the weekend to consider your options. Resign quietly with appropriate settlements for your victims, or face public exposure of everything we've uncovered. Your choice. As we walked away, Fox called after us. This isn't over. Kate glanced back over her shoulder. Actually, Alexander, it's been over since the day you decided my wife was just another conquest. You just didn't know it yet. We spent the weekend in a frenzy of preparation, expecting Fox to deploy his considerable resources against us. Private investigators, legal threats, maybe worse. Nothing would be beyond him with his empire at stake. Sure enough, by Saturday afternoon, Kate's company phone was blowing up with messages from Fox's executive team, his personal attorney, even his chief of security. She ignored them all while I coordinated with the 7 former employees who had agreed to come forward. Fox is trying to access your network credentials remotely, our IT security consultant warned during a late-night call. He's attempting to delete files and emails. Good thing we've already backed everything up securely. By Sunday evening, the groundwork was laid. The board members of Fox Capital Partners had each received an anonymous email detailing concerns about irregularities in the Helios Fund and suggesting they pay particular attention to Monday's presentation. Just enough to pique their interest without showing our full hand. Meanwhile, our legal team had prepared comprehensive documentation packages, one detailing the sexual harassment pattern, another exposing the financial fraud, both devastating to Fox personally and to the company's reputation. What if he doesn't show up tomorrow? Kate asked as we reviewed our strategy one final time in our hotel room near the Arizona Biltmore. He'll show, I assured her. His ego won't let him hide. He still thinks he can charm his way out of this? Intimidate the board into dismissing our claims. Kate nodded, her expression resolute despite the dark circles under her eyes. Then let's finish this. Monday morning arrived with desert sunshine streaming through the resort's windows. Board members and executives gathered in the grand ballroom, an undercurrent of tension evident beneath the professional small talk. Fox entered last, perfectly tailored as always but with tension visible in his jaw. His eyes locked with Kate's across the room, a glare of pure hatred that might have terrified her 6 months earlier, but now bounced off her armor of preparation and purpose. The company's chief operating officer opened the session, reviewing quarterly performance before introducing Fox to present the company's strategic vision. Fox took the podium with practiced charisma that couldn't quite hide his agitation. Before I begin my presentation, he announced, I need to address a situation that has recently come to my attention. One of our analysts, Kate Mitchell, has made some concerning allegations based on a fundamental misunderstanding of our operations. Nice try, I thought, watching from my position near the back wall. Attempting to get ahead of the story, paint Kate as confused or incompetent. Ms. Mitchell was scheduled to present the Helios Project Performance Review today, Fox continued smoothly. But in light of these developments, I'll be handling that presentation myself. Ms. Mitchell, thank you for your contributions, but your services are no longer required. A murmur ran through the assembled executives. Kate remained perfectly calm in her seat, making no move to leave. Actually, came a voice from the head of the boardroom table, I believe we should hear from Ms. Mitchell. Harold Winters, the board chairman, fixed Fox with a steely gaze. Especially in light of certain communications the board has received regarding Helios. Fox's confidence visibly faltered. Harold, I strongly advise against... Nevertheless, we will proceed. Winters gestured to Kate. Ms. Mitchell, the floor is yours. Kate walked to the podium with composed confidence, nodded respectfully to the board, and began exactly as Fox would have expected, displaying impressive growth charts and return percentages that drew appreciative murmurs. Fox gradually relaxed, clearly believing she had abandoned whatever plan we concocted. His relief was palpable and premature. 16 minutes into her allocated 30, Kate pivoted. These numbers I've just presented reflect what Fox Capital has been showing clients, investors, and regulators, she said, her voice steady despite Fox's suddenly rigid posture. Now I'd like to show you the actual performance data. A new slide appeared, showing dramatic discrepancies between reported and actual returns. Confused murmurs rippled through the room as Fox half rose from his chair. There seems to be some mistake in Ms. Mitchell's presentation, he said smoothly. Perhaps we should take a brief recess to correct these errors. No error, Mr. Fox, Kate replied, advancing to the next damning slide. These are the authentic numbers from the internal audit system, the ones kept hidden from clients and the board alike. She methodically walked them through the evidence. Phantom trades, artificially inflated returns, misappropriated funds flowing to offshore accounts. With each slide, Fox's face grew paler, his attempts to interrupt more desperate. When she finished the financial portion, Kate turned to face the board directly. There's another matter the board should be aware of, a pattern of sexual harassment and coercion by Mr. Fox that extends back at least 8 years and encompasses numerous female employees. Fox was fully standing now. This is outrageous. A disgruntled employee making wild accusations. She's not alone, Alexander, I said, opening the ballroom side door. 7 women walked in, former Fox Capital employees of various ages and backgrounds, but all sharing one common experience. The color drained from Fox's face as he recognized each one. Women he had harassed, threatened, silenced with NDAs and settlements. For the next 20 minutes, they spoke briefly but powerfully about their experiences, creating an undeniable pattern of predation that even the most skeptical board member couldn't dismiss. Fox's composure disintegrated as the evidence mounted. He alternated between rage, "This is a coordinated attack by competitors," dismissal, "Disgruntled former employees with personal vendettas," and finally, when the evidence became overwhelming, desperate damage control, "I've perhaps been overzealous in my personal approach to mentorship." The board chairman eventually raised his hand for silence. His face was a mask of controlled fury, not at us, but at Fox. Securities fraud, investor deception, sexual harassment, misappropriation of company funds. Winters enumerated each offense like nails in a coffin. "Alexander, the board will convene immediately in private session. In the meantime, security will escort you to your suite, where you will remain until our determination is complete." "Harold, for God's sake," Fox pleaded, his voice stripped of its usual authority. "I built this company from nothing. Everything I've done has been for Fox Capital's success." "Including stealing from it?" Winters asked coldly. "Including creating a toxic environment that drove away top talent? Including exposing us to massive legal liability?" "Security, please remove Mr. Fox." As 2 suited security personnel approached, Fox's desperation turned to rage. He lunged toward Kate, his face contorted. "You ungrateful bitch! I made you! I could have made you rich beyond your wildest dreams!" The security guards caught him before he reached her, restraining his arms as he continued to spew threats and obscenities. The mask of sophisticated financial genius had completely fallen away, revealing the entitled predator beneath. As they dragged him from the ballroom, Fox locked eyes with me one last time. "This isn't over, Mitchell. I'll destroy you both if it's the last thing I do." I met his gaze calmly. "It's been over since the day you decided my wife was your prey, Fox. You just didn't know it yet." The aftermath came swiftly and decisively. By evening, the board had removed Fox from all operational responsibilities pending a comprehensive investigation. By the following morning, Fox Capital Partners had announced an emergency leadership transition and full cooperation with regulatory authorities. The 7 women who had broken their silence received prompt messages that their NDAs would not be enforced and settlement discussions would begin at their convenience. Kate was approached by the interim CEO with an offer to remain with the company in a substantial leadership role. She declined. Instead, we launched Mitchell Financial Integrity Consulting, a firm specializing in identifying and correcting both financial fraud and toxic workplace cultures. Our first clients included former victims of Fox Capital who had started their own ventures and wanted to ensure they were building something fundamentally different. The legal consequences for Fox mounted with stunning speed. The SEC launched a formal investigation into the Helios Fund irregularities. Civil lawsuits piled up as other victims came forward. Criminal charges for securities fraud and financial misrepresentation loomed on the horizon. Fox's carefully constructed public image collapsed overnight. Financial news channels that had once celebrated him as a visionary now dissected his fraudulent schemes in primetime specials. The charitable foundations that had proudly displayed his name began quietly removing it from their buildings and literature. His personal fortune, much of it built on stolen investor funds, was rapidly evaporating into legal fees, settlements, and asset freezes. The empire he had spent a decade building was being dismantled piece by piece. 3 months after the Arizona confrontation, we received intelligence from a former Fox executive still in contact with his inner circle. Fox was liquidating his remaining accessible assets and making arrangements to flee the country ahead of potential criminal charges. Let him run, Kate said when I showed her the information. He'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, stripped of the power and status he values above everything. But Fox had one final card to play. The night before his planned escape, he showed up at our Connecticut home, drunk, desperate, and dangerous. The security system alerted us to the perimeter breach seconds before the sound of breaking glass downstairs. I grabbed the baseball bat we'd kept nearby since the threats began, while Kate called police and retreated to our bedroom's panic room, an unfortunate necessity in the aftermath of Fox's downfall. I found him in our kitchen, swaying slightly, a wild look in his eyes and a gun hanging loosely from his right hand. "You took everything from me," he slurred, raising the weapon unsteadily. "My company, my reputation, my life. You took those from yourself, Fox," I replied, keeping my voice level while calculating the distance between us. "Every time you harassed a woman, every time you lied to investors, every time you stole from your clients." He laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "So self-righteous. You know what the funny thing is? If your wife had just played along like all the others, none of this would have happened. One weekend in Tokyo, that's all it would have taken. Instead, you destroyed $1 billion company." "No, we exposed $1 billion fraud," I corrected him. "There's a difference." His face contorted with rage. "There's no difference on Wall Street. Everyone cuts corners. Everyone bends rules. I just had the balls to bend them further." His finger tightened on the trigger. "And now you'll both pay for your goddamn moral superiority." What happened next unfolded in seconds that felt like hours. Fox raised the gun toward the staircase, toward where he thought Kate might be hiding. I lunged forward with the bat, connecting with his arm just as the gun discharged, sending a bullet into our ceiling. We crashed to the floor together, struggling for control of the weapon. Fox fought with the desperate strength of a man with nothing left to lose. But years of predatory behavior hadn't prepared him for actual physical combat. I pinned his gun arm with my knee, twisting until his fingers released the weapon. "It's over, Fox," I panted, securing the gun and pushing it across the floor away from us. "The police are already on their way." The fight seemed to drain out of him suddenly, replaced by a cold, calculating expression that was somehow more terrifying than his rage. "You think this ends with me?" he whispered. "There are 1,000 Alexander Foxes on Wall Street, men with money and power who take what they want. You've won nothing." The wail of approaching sirens filled the night as blue lights flashed through our windows. Fox's lips curved in a bitter smile. "You know the real irony. In prison, I'll be the Kate in this scenario. Poetic justice, I suppose." When the police burst through our door moments later, they found me still holding Fox pinned to our kitchen floor, the confiscated gun safely out of reach. His final act of desperation had accomplished nothing except adding attempted murder to his growing list of charges. 2 years have passed since that night. Alexander Fox pled guilty to multiple counts of securities fraud, financial misappropriation, and attempted assault. His 20-year sentence, without possibility of parole, made headlines for a day before the world moved on to the next scandal, the next fallen titan. Mitchell Financial Integrity Consulting has flourished beyond our expectations. Kate's analytical brilliance, combined with my legal experience, has made us the go-to firm for companies seeking to identify and eliminate both financial improprieties and toxic workplace cultures. More importantly, we've created a network of support for harassment victims in the financial sector, providing resources, legal assistance, and career rehabilitation for those who have experienced what Kate endured. Some nights when we're working late at our office overlooking the same Manhattan skyline Fox once thought he owned, Kate will look up from her analysis and catch my eye. "Do you ever think about him?" she'll ask. "Wonder if it was worth it to him?" And I'll remember Fox's final words before the police led him away in handcuffs. "I'd do it all again. The money, the women, the power, it was all worth it." "No," I'll tell her. "Some people never learn their lesson." Then we'll turn back to our work, building something meaningful from the ashes of Fox's corrupt empire, helping other companies operate with integrity, protecting other potential victims, creating the change we want to see in the financial world. We don't hate Fox anymore. That would give him too much power, even in defeat. Instead, we thank him for showing us the world as it is and inspiring us to help build it as it should be. The battle against men like Alexander Fox isn't won in a single dramatic confrontation. It's won day by day, case by case, through the courage of those who refuse to be victims and the determination of those who stand beside them. Kate and I learned that lesson the hard way. But some lessons, painful as they are, make you stronger than you ever thought possible. As for Alexander Fox, his name is already fading from Wall Street's memory, his genius exposed as fraud, his power revealed as mere bullying. While he counts the days in a federal prison cell, we're counting the lives we've helped change for the better. That's how you really destroy a predator like Fox. Not just by taking away what he has, but by building something better in its place, piece by piece.